Hello and welcome to the CinemATL Podcast. The CinemATL Podcast is a weekly podcast that examines the world of entertainment through the lens of local Atlanta filmmakers. That would be us, your hosts. I am Michael D. Friedman, and that is
Martin Kelly.
And it's time for our annual Star Wars special. Well, this year there's no movie to discuss, but everyone's been talking about Season 2 of The Mandalorian, which just wrapped up last week. So we'll share our thoughts on that as well as discussing some Star Wars news. But first, Martin, why don't you tell our listeners how they can help out the podcast?
Well, you can help by listening like you're doing right now, and also comment and rate on whichever format you're listening to us on. And those formats, you can also subscribe. Those formats include Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Amazon Podcasts, and you can also listen to us at the website.
Yeah, and we also want to hear from you. You can always tweet us at CinemATL or at our personal accounts. Mine is at Badger33.
Or you can catch me at Marte_Real1.
And we're also available on Instagram at CinemATL Podcast, as well as our personal Instagram accounts as well. So check us out there.
Definitely check us out there, and make sure that you let Instagram know that you like the CinemATL Podcast. So subscribe so you don't miss an episode, or also our other features, Freeze Frame Friday, as well as Movie Quote Monday.
Yes. Having a lot of fun with those, so hopefully you're enjoying them as well. And you can also always check us out. Like Martin said, you can listen to us at cinematl.com, or, check out other things on that website as well. The old school web address.
Definitely. The thing of the past.
Well, why don't we just get right into it? Let's start with the Star Wars news. Okay, well, before we get into our review of The Mandalorian, we did want to talk about some Star Wars news that's out there. Disney made an announcement on Disney Investor Day about a slew of new Star Wars projects that are in the pipeline. There's a ton of them.
Definitely. It was so many. It was like I can't even hardly keep track. But there's going to be several live action Disney Plus shows, starting off with Ahsoka, which will be a limited series, which is a spinoff of the Clone Wars and Mandalorian. Rosario Dawson plays Ahsoka Tano, who's a former Jedi warrior. And we'll probably talk about her in our review of Mandalorian Season 2.
Yeah, spoiler alert for those who haven't watched Season 2, but Ahsoka makes an appearance, and it was pretty much a backdoor pilot, basically, for this show. You knew they were going to, if they're going to cast somebody like Rosario Dawson, you knew they weren't just going to have her guest in one episode.
Exactly.
The other spin-off of The Mandalorian that they announced was a series called Rangers of the New Republic. And there's not really much known about this, but based off of the fact that we know that it's a spinoff from the Mandalorian show, I would expect Cara Dune to be featured in this, as well as maybe some of the New Republic pilots that we have met during the series run. So
I think so too. That's the most logical kind of explanation for that one.
Yeah.
Another one is called Andor, and if you don't know what Andor is, it's actually going to be a 12-episode limited series, and it centers on Cassian Andor, played by Diego Luna. And if you don't remember who that character is, he is in Rogue One, of course, and I think that's a very interesting one, because I certainly ranked Rogue One very high among my favorite Star Wars movies. So I can't wait to see what they do with that.
Yeah, Rogue One is a really good movie if you haven't seen it. And it'd be interesting to see what they do with this character, because he had a lot of potential. And then if you watch Rogue One, you're like, oh, well, no more stories for him. But you can always go back in time. That's the great thing about Star Wars. They go all over the timeline. So,
well, I think that that's what offers a lot of excitement, is that this will all have to take place before A New Hope, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of possibilities of filling in the blanks of what was kind of peripheral in A New Hope, and so hopefully Cassian Andor is in the thick of things.
And I really hope they have K2SO
Oh,
in the
yes.
series as well,
No
because
doubt, yes.
his
One of the best droids,
relationship with Cassian Andor was like probably one of
definitely,
the better parts of Rogue One, and it'd be
definitely.
great to have Alan Tudyk back voicing that role too.
Absolutely. I
But we'll
agree.
see. Yeah.
I agree.
Speaking of taking place early before A New Hope, the next series they announced takes place nearly 200 years before A New Hope. It's called The Acolyte, and it takes place during the High Republic era. Um, I don't know if you know a bunch about like the ancillary Star Wars storytelling that they have, but they've recently released this whole new series of books based around the High Republic and comic books and children's novels. They're really like taking like a look at the foundations of the Jedi Order, and the High Republic takes place before even the prequels. So
Nice. Yeah. I think that's pretty cool. And one of the characters I'm looking forward to seeing, because he would only be what, like 500 years old at the time, is Yoda is a
yeah,
possibility, right?
it could be a possibility. I don't know. And this show is being developed by Leslie Headland, who was a co-creator of Netflix Russian Doll. So I I really enjoyed Russian Doll, the series. So hopefully good things come from this.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Definitely interesting. And speaking of classic characters, Lando is going to be an event series, a mini series, basically. It's early in development from Justin Simeon from Dear White People fame. Not only the original feature, but also the series called Dear White
Hmm.
People. No news if this is actually going to star Donald Glover or if it's going to be Billy D. Williams as a later Lando. We don't know exactly what
Yeah.
part of the timeline Lando's going to be in for this, but that would be exciting either way. Those two, and but there's also a possibility they'll go a completely different direction and cast somebody completely new for this event series.
Yeah, I hope they don't cast somebody new. I hope they, it might be hard to get Donald Glover because he's, so busy and so big now. And then Billy D. Williams would probably be easier to get for them. But do we want to know about old Lando or young
Well,
Lando?
that becomes sort of like we saw Lando again, thankfully, in the final
Yeah,
the latest Star Wars film.
Rise of Skywalker. Yeah,
Right, which is was cool, but then, like, it seems like we'd have to take that series would have to take place after the events of that movie, and it's like, I don't know if that's where I wanna see Lando. I may wanna see Lando as young Lando, so, I do kind of would prefer if it's Donald Glover, hopefully, in
it
that
might
year.
be cool if it was actually both of them and they tell like a story via
Oh,
flashbacks.
Like a
Yeah,
Godfather 2.
yeah.
That'd be pretty cool.
Speaking of classic characters, this one was previously announced, so it wasn't like big news. But Obi-Wan Kenobi, there's going to be a series. It's been speculated it's like 6 episodes, but like long episodes, so it could be like a whole, I don't know, like almost like mini movies. But this one takes place 10 years after the Revenge of the Sith and actually stars Ewan McGregor. And the thing they did announce at the Disney Investor Day was that Hayden Christensen will be returning to the role of Darth Vader. Well, actually returning to the role of Anakin Skywalker. He's never really played Darth Vader except for the
He had that one
infamous
scene, yeah.
no. So it'd be interesting to see like how he does as Darth Vader. It's also kind of a weird role for him to play that, considering he's going to be behind a mask the whole time. So maybe they'll do
Yeah.
something a little bit different with it, and we'll get to see a maskless, burnt Hayden Christensen or something.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely I agree. It's going to be weird. I mean, it may, it may be something that they plan to do, which will be kind of interesting and revolutionary,
Yeah,
with the character that we hadn't thought of before. But we'll see. Because otherwise, yeah, you might as well just put a gifted sort of athlete in the suit.
yeah,
Especially if you're going to still use the James Earl Jones voice.
yeah. I mean, like, yeah, what are they going to do with that? That's kind of interesting that Hayden Christensen is playing that part, because I'm interested to see, because I actually like Hayden Christensen as an actor, even though I didn't like
Yeah, like,
Anakin. You
aside from
know,
that, yeah, aside from his
yeah,
portrayal of Anakin, yeah, he's
I
pretty
think he
good.
kind of got a raw deal for like that. I think that was more about the way they portrayed Anakin as a character than his acting. But
Right.
interesting to see.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right about that. I have always thought he was a good actor actually, and he just sort of got a really bad rap after that.
Yeah. So that's 6 live action Disney shows coming up. That they announced at the Investor Day, the live action, and then there's some animated stuff coming out. There's a new spinoff from the Clone Wars called The Bad Batch. I don't follow the Clone Wars closely, or like Star Wars Rebels and stuff like that, but it's the same. It's from that same linear line of storytelling, and this is about a group of warriors from the Clone Wars era who are like specialists and badasses, and
So basically, a wild bunch of
yeah, they've been featured in the Clone Wars before and in Rebels. So it'd be interesting to see what that is. And this stuff, what I've watched of the Clone Wars and Rebels, it's actually kind of interesting stuff. I just haven't been able to watch all of it.
No, I agree. I haven't watched all of it either, but what I have seen, I have enjoyed. And also animated is a droid story, which will be an animated movie starring R2D2 and C3PO. We don't know where this takes place in the Star Wars timeline, but it's going to be more of a kids
Yeah,
movie, more of a kids theme, which makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, I have to say I'm interested because I've always enjoyed the C3PO character and his relationship with R2D2. So this could be fun, even if it is aimed more at kids.
yeah. It's like with animated stuff. Mentioning Clone Wars and Rebels, those are definitely kids shows, but they're not necessarily aimed at the younger kids. It's more of like the older kids and the Star Wars fans. So adults tend to enjoy those as well. Whereas this one, I think, is aiming more at the kids level. Remember the droids Saturday morning cartoon? I wonder if it's
Yeah,
going to be
yeah,
like
yeah.
that or not. Uh,
Yeah.
there have been other Star Wars things like Star Wars. I think Resistance was aimed a little bit more at a younger generation as well. So I think this is going to aim more at that level.
Right. Well, it makes sense to do that to sort of keep cultivating sort of new generations of Star Wars fans, right?
Hmm.
And so, take away from the animated and go back into the theatrical world, and um, they have a film called Rogue Squadron on tap, which will be directed by Patty Jenkins of Wonder Woman fame, and it'll follow a group of Rebel Alliance pilots. So again, this is not clear exactly where this is going to take place in the timeline, but a lot of people speculate it's going to be around the sequel trilogy timeline.
Yeah. So like around the Force Awakens era,
Right.
somewhere around there. But it'd be interesting to see what Patty Jenkins can do with it. She did a great job with Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman '84 is coming out
Yep.
uh, in a couple days,
Yeah,
or maybe
definitely.
tomorrow if actually when this is released. So yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what she can do with the Star Wars material.
Interested. Yeah, definitely interested in seeing how she does it.
It'd be interesting to see like the pilots too. It's like a different, so kind of like Top Gun in space, maybe type thing,
Yeah,
and
could be. Yeah.
a little bit different look at we had Luke and as a pilot, but we didn't really get to see how
I
they
mean,
worked as a team and
no,
things like
yeah,
that.
exactly. Exactly. We never really got to see the squad. We really only got to see Luke for the most part.
Yeah, stay on target. Stay on target. Um, another theatrical movie release, hopefully theatrical, like all these, like they're planning on them coming out in theaters, and these aren't coming out. I think they're like aiming at 2022 for these movies, actually. But Taika Waititi is also on tap to direct a Star Wars film. We don't really know much about it, but I am definitely on board because he did a great job with the Mandalorian, the season finale of season one,
Right.
as well as voicing IG-11 in the first season as well. So,
Hmm, hmm.
and I'm just on board for anything he does anyway. So that's really
Yeah,
cool.
definitely. Oh, definitely. Because there's another completely unrelated to this series that I heard about today, which I'm excited to hear to have have come out as well. But yeah, Waititi, I'm on board. So we'll let you know when that's further developed, folks.
Yeah.
And then speaking of talented directors, Ryan Johnson's trilogy, which had been the big thing for a while, um, hasn't been discussed recently. Not at the Disney Investor Day, but he still says he's working on it. So uh, the fans of Ryan Johnson and his take on Star Wars and his new trilogy, take heart. He is still working on it, even though it was not officially mentioned recently. So we'll have to see
Yeah,
how that develops.
it'd be interesting to see what goes on with that. And I think there was rumors out around that there were other people like doing things as well. So like Kevin Feige
Right,
um,
right.
was working on a project for Star Wars. Like, could it be one of these? I don't know, because it was just kind of like, yeah, he's working on something, but he didn't say whether he was directing it, producing it, whatever. So maybe he's just producing Rogue Squadron for all we know. But
Or
the-
even he could even be part of Taika's project because
yeah,
he had worked with him before in the
that's
Marvel
true.
universe. So
Exactly. So yeah, we don't really know what that stands. But as far as the Ryan Johnson thing, he says he's still working on it. We'll see. Apparently, it wasn't far enough along for them to actually make an announcement. But I'd be interesting to see what he could do with a fresh slate. I mean,
well, it definitely, yeah, it definitely needs to be fresh because
yeah,
I think he disappointed a lot of people with how he handled what J.J. Abrams rebooted. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
there's some people who liked it a lot. So he's definitely was a little bit of a divisive figure. So for a fresh take on it, I think that's a good look for him. So we'll see what happens with it.
So that's all the projects that were announced on Disney Investor Day. But there's one more project, but we're not going to discuss that until we jump into the Mandalorian season 2 review that we are going to do just next. So let's jump into that. Spoiler alert for those of you that are listening. There's really no way for us to talk about this season without major spoilers. So
Yeah, exactly.
we're not even going to try to dance around it.
No,
So
you definitely need to have
yeah,
watched it if you don't want to be spoiled.
yes. So that's your spoiler warning. If you don't want to stick around, well, you got your Star Wars news, and
Or
we'll see you next week. So,
just pause, go to Disney Plus and watch it and then come right back.
yeah, it's only like
Yeah,
I don't know how long, like
it'd be about 4.5 hours, right?
4 hour binge, yeah, something like that. Yeah, yeah, you got time. What
Yeah,
else are you doing on it?
it's the
What else are you doing?
holidays,
Yeah.
right?
But yeah, so let's just jump into the Mandalorian season 2. I mean, where do we start? I mean, there's so much to talk about this season, and I guess first of all, I'm going to say this season blew season 1 out of the water. If you ask me, like even though season 1 was terrific, I
Yeah.
think they really upped their game for season 2, and it's just really I'm just
It
eager to see what happens with season 3.
no, it totally caught me by surprise that it was, better. Like, it was better from the beginning even,
Mhm.
than season 1, because season 1 was such a nice surprise and was quality television for sure. But this one, yeah, they did blow it out of the water in a lot of ways. So, like, especially with the special effects and also the
Oh yeah.
scope of the production. You know what I mean?
Well,
Uh,
yeah, no, I agree because I was like, there were some times where I was thinking, oh, this is like so. Episode 6 specifically, I was watching that and I was like, this is better than a lot of the Star Wars movies that have come out recently. I was like, I feel like I'm watching a Star Wars movie. And then to
right.
come to find out that it was directed by Robert Rodriguez, I was like, oh, okay, well, there you go.
Right, totally. Yeah, it's like, yeah, you're right. Episode 6, the tragedy, was a fantastic episode, and it was like it was it even stood out from the rest of season 2 in a lot of ways. Up
Yeah,
to that point, was like it just got off and running, and it's like,
yeah.
whoa, whoa, whoa. They're like, and it was like you said, short, but at the
Yeah, it
same
was
time,
probably I think it was the shortest episode of the season even,
it
but
was,
it
but
was
the scope of it seemed so
yeah.
big. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, certainly, he didn't waste any time getting right into it, and that was sort of my. I guess that's my favorite episode of the season, for one main reason. Um, so yeah, I guess spoiler alert because
Yeah,
Fett,
we already spoiled it. Yeah,
yeah,
Boba Fett
Boba
comes
Fett
back.
came
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
Which we was hinted at before, but I didn't, I
Yeah.
didn't register as much with me that they hinted that he could
Yeah.
come back. But
I mean, it's hinted back since season one,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
when the mysterious feet came and found Finnick Shand, who
yeah.
was
But
played by Ming Na Wen, like, and a lot of people were kind of speculating that might have been Boba Fett at the time. I kind of wrote that off as nah, it's not. That's not him. But
well, yeah, I figured it's just people being sort of extrapolating a little too
yeah,
much of their wishful thinking into it because basically it was feet. It was 2 feet, you
yeah,
know. So I really didn't connect it at that time at all, even though they were on tattooing. You know what I mean?
yeah. But then they like kind of like hinted at it again in the end of the first episode this year when
Yeah, yeah,
he was like overlooking them when
yeah, yeah. I think
when he
that's
saw his armor getting taken away. I was like, oh.
yeah,
But I mean,
yeah,
even if you're not like, it's like, so I mean, we're both big Star Wars fans, but we're not the Star Wars fans that know every model number of every ship
right.
and everything like that. So, like, I didn't instantly made the connection that that was Boba Fett. Like, I kind of thought, like, who is this? Who is that guy? Like, he looks familiar.
Hmm.
He's older now, so it didn't really register to me that he would be the clone trooper model.
Right, right.
Um,
And truthfully, it all makes sense, but I wasn't connecting those dots at the time either. I thought this is just some mysterious figure who's, watching
mhm.
watching the Mandalorian, take away some Mandalorian armor. I thought it was just some ominous figure.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what works so well about this season in particular, and just the Mandalorian in totality, is that it does do a lot of, like, a lot of people complain about fan service, but I think that's exactly what people want. People want to
Yeah,
like see these characters
definitely.
and get these little Easter eggs, and but it gives you enough that if you are a big fan of the show, if you're like a uber geek about it, you're going to be able to figure out these little hints that they're throwing out there, while a more casual viewer like us, even though we're big Star Wars fans, might not make those connections, but it's still enough of an intrigue for us to keep. They do it well enough that you're not the fan service isn't wasted on people that may not be the uber,
Right,
you know,
right. Yeah, I
fans
think
about it.
exactly. And I say, you and I are big Star Wars fans, but we're not so much Star Wars fans that we have researched it afterwards. You know what I mean? We
Yeah,
enjoy the movies a lot. We know quite a bit about Star Wars, but we don't know that kind of detail to really guess it. I'm not even that kind of a watcher either. Sort of like, oh, let me speculate who that could be. You know what I mean? That doesn't
yeah,
happen. But I do appreciate the fan service because I loved it when Boba Fett shows up.
yeah,
I saw the ship and I'm like, oh, that's Boba Fett.
yeah.
Oh, I'm like,
Slave one.
oh, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I had that
yeah,
toy as a kid,
yeah.
so I knew exactly who that was at that point. You know, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's Boba Fett, of course.
Well,
He
even
looks,
like the other characters like Bo Katan and
yeah,
Ahsoka, uh, are like characters that have been, have a
huge,
rabid
yeah,
fan base
yeah,
from the Clone Wars people and Star Wars Rebels and those people that watch those shows religiously, and that they're and they've had novels written about them
right,
and stuff like
right,
that. So the Uber Star Wars fans are gonna they were freaking out like that, and that was the great thing about this season, was that each episode, not every episode, but as they went along, you're like, oh wow, I can't believe we're seeing this person for the first
right,
time in real life,
absolutely,
right?
yeah,
So
absolutely,
even the first episode, Cobb Vanth, who was Timothy Oliphant, was actually somebody who has been in Star Wars, I think, literature in the past. So it was like
right,
people were like, oh yeah, that's cool. And then Bo Katan comes up, and it's Katie Sackhoff who's playing her, and she did the voice in the
right,
show. So people are like geeking out about that. And then of course Ahsoka comes on, and Rosario Dawson was great. And like, I'm not even familiar with the character enough to say like how she presented herself as Ahsoka, but
right,
I can't imagine her not fitting that part perfectly, because it came off as really well done.
definitely, yeah.
Um, and
That
I
was
can't
that
wait
was
to see the series, because I think she's going to do a great job in it.
No, and that was a great, that was a great episode for a
That
lot of
episode
different
was really
reasons.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the reasons was finally, everyone loves Baby Yoda, but at the same time, it's somewhat frustrating not to understand Baby Yoda, what he's thinking and stuff like that. Which
Yeah.
finally we get a little insight into. what Baby Yoda's thinking, and we even find out his name at the at
Yeah.
that episode, which is really cool. So
Grogu.
it was a fantastic episode. And the level of talent obviously is huge. And that's the case with the Mandalorian as a whole, because it's not. I mean, you got Timothy Oliphant, who's a tremendous actor.
Yeah.
He did a great job in as Cobb Vanth, and everybody like down the line, and Giancarlo Esposito playing,
Oh yeah. He's
playing.
terrific.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
Moff Gideon. Yeah.
Gideon. I mean, everybody, and even the guy who played, oh man, Titus Welliver. You know what I mean?
Oh
He's
yeah.
playing.
Yeah. He had a little part as like
Yeah,
a cruiser captain. And he
yeah.
was
He's playing a cruiser captain, a small part, but he's a talented actor too. He's fantastic in in Deadwood, among other things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, obviously everything about the series is so well done. The directing talent they get in it, like you mentioned, Robert Rodriguez did a great job with, like you mentioned, probably the shortest episode, but at the same time, it packed the most punch. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um, and
Well,
and then
Peyton Reed in the season finale. He did the season finale. He also did the second episode of the season.
yeah,
He's
and John
from
John
Ant
Favreau
Man.
even got into the act as a
Yeah.
director, not just the writer.
Well, and then Dave Filoni, who's John Favreau and Dave Filoni are like the team behind this, and Dave
Mhm.
Filoni is known for doing Clone Wars and Rebels and all those things, and
Right.
seeing him branch into live action is really great too, because that episode that he directed, The Jedi, which the Ahsoka Tano episode, was so well done
Yeah. Oh yeah.
directorially. It reminded me of old samurai
Hmm.
films and
Absolutely.
western. It had a western element and a samurai element
Yeah.
side by side, because basically the Ahsoka Tano storyline was like the samurai stories, like a
Mhm.
Kurosawa film, and it had that same kind of framing devices.
Yeah.
And then Mando's story, where he's having the duel with the right hand man in that episode, was very reminiscent of Western,
Right.
this old standoffs. And I think he did a great. That episode was really good. And of course, at the time, it's funny because like I said, like as we're watching, you're like, oh, this is the best episode, and then you watch the next one, oh, this is the best episode, and
Right.
then you watch
Right.
the next one, oh. Um,
Totally.
so
Yeah.
there wasn't a much. What I want to say about this too also is that there wasn't a whole lot of dead weight in this season. There was a couple episodes where I had a little bit of downtime.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, I think the seventh episode, right before the season finale, was kind of one of those filler episodes before they get to the finale, but it actually had packed
Right.
a lot of punch in it, even though it was kind of more of a one-off mission episode, where they go off to
Yeah.
this planet to find this thing. But I thought it was actually interesting to see, Bill Burr's character, who turns out to be an ex-Imperial trooper, and so you get to see the side of like the everyman who's just fighting,
Right.
in the Imperial Army, and see
Yeah.
how they feel about the leadership, and it's a kind of really cool idea. And then that episode also led us to seeing Mando take his helmet off for the first time,
Right. Right.
um, in a situation where somebody would see him, of course. But yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's sort of, like you mentioned, that was interesting because of the Bill Burr character and the fact that he actually humanizes sort of the Empire,
yeah,
the Empire. And they actually even get into it even a little bit in the eighth episode, where you've got some people who really believe in the Empire and what they're doing. And
hmm
so it really kind of humanizes that whole side somewhat. You know what I mean? Not completely, but
yeah.
but
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 I mean, you at
definitely
least get a
you just
feeling for the understanding of like why people would be supportive of the Empire. They're not just some evil
right. They're trying to
dictators. I mean, they are the evil
they
dictatorship,
are, but
but
they're trying
they're
to bring order.
also
Yeah, they're trying
yeah,
to bring order to the galaxy. Is what they believe in, order, and so they're willing to do things that most people wouldn't, do to impose that order. And so, I guess that's
yeah. But even like seeing
yeah,
it from like side where he was saying, some people see, if you're from Andor, you see it this way, and if you're from
right,
this
right,
planet, you see it this way. So who's right? I don't know. But even you see his, you know, even though he was in the Imperial Army, you see how he necessarily doesn't actually agree with everything that
Right.
happened, and
Absolutely.
so much so that he kind of
Hmm.
takes matters into his own hands. And it
Definitely.
was it was interesting. What I like about they call it like bottle episodes, where it's like the episodes that don't really necessarily are like kind of standalone. They're in previous traditional TV seasons had 23 episodes in them, and
Right.
to
Right.
save money they would do what they called bottle episodes, where it would feature maybe a subset of the cast and
Yeah. Yeah.
only one location.
Yeah.
Try to save a little bit of money so they
Like,
can save
like you'd get the somebody stuck in the elevator. That way you
yeah.
only have to, deal with the one actor for
Yeah,
most of the
exactly.
show or something.
But I mean, even though they have like those types of episodes in this season, like that, I'm looking at that one and like kind of the passenger episode where she was taking the frog
Yeah.
lady to the
Mhm.
planet. They're still they're still offering little nuggets of the story to keep
Yeah.
you on the path of the
Definitely.
overall vision of what's going on. Like the passenger, like even like the fact that when they're stranded on the ice planet and they, the New Republic guys come and rescue
Yes.
him, and it
Uh-huh.
kind of
Yep.
sets up some of the stuff for later in the
Yep.
series when,
Absolutely.
they come to the Cara Dune's planet and she basically kind of recruit her. And
Right.
so that kind of sets up the whole idea that we talked about with the new series, the Rangers of the New Republic. So,
Right, and definitely, like, it's the same thing with them, is that we only knew, like, a lot of the Star Wars things that we've known, live action Star Wars stuff that we've known is always concentrated on very few characters, and, like, this expands and lets you at least get familiar with a lot of other characters, and so, like you mentioned, those, Alliance,
mhm,
pilots, you know what I mean? They become humanized, and you humanize that whole crew too, which, they're pretty much blank faces in a lot of the movies. You know what I mean? Just like a bunch of rebel soldiers, whatever. But these guys, are real people too. And so I did like that. But I did want to ask you, because I do have one thing I was disappointed with, and I want you to let me know if you had anything that you were kind of disappointed with about the
mhm.
season first, and
Oh, you want
reveal
me to
mine.
tell you first? You're not going to tell me what
No, I'll do
okay.
mine then. Okay, my
I,
thing. If you want me to go first, I'll go first.
I mean, I'm going to say that I was not disappointed in the season at all. Like, I mean,
Okay.
there were some things that maybe I I could see why people might have some complaints,
Okay.
but to me they weren't distracting from the story or didn't didn't ruin the story overall story for me. So I guess there's three things I think that people might have issue with, and
Okay.
the first one is the Grogu eating the frog lady's eggs, basically. And to me,
Right.
that's a combination of
Th-
he doesn't know what he's doing and
right.
bad parenting
Yeah.
by Mando, who hasn't learned to be a father yet at that point.
Right.
And that's kind of what the cool thing about the story is, that he becomes more fatherly as the story goes on, and that's why it's so powerful at the end
Hmm. Hmm.
when he does give up Grogu to Luke.
Right.
The other thing I can see would be an issue. This is probably the one I had the biggest issue with, was in the Believer episode when he takes his mask off for the first time. I think it's fan service, not fan service. I think it's service to the plot more than anything, because
Yeah.
having him scan his face when he's not even a member of the Imperial, like, what's that going to
Yeah.
do? Like,
Well.
why would
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
So, I
Exactly.
mean, the only thing I could think of is it was like they didn't want droids using it, so they had to actually see if it was a human face or
Right. Right.
something. I don't know. They didn't explain it well. I think they could have easily explained that in a one-off.
Yeah, but
Uh,
you're right. That brings up, like how the heck did, if they have the ability to scan people's faces, how would they not have everybody's face on a database?
well, that's why I was saying that my iPhone is more encrypted than the
Right.
Imperial database.
Exactly.
So, so that was pretty kind of lame. But I think overall the storyline was enough for me to overlook that.
Hmm.
And then the other leap, I guess there's another one that I've heard too, is the in the Robert Rodriguez episode, the tragedy episode, when he meets Boba Fett and Boba Fett tells him to put down his jetpack instead of his gun. Basically, that allows that allows Mando to have the issue where he can't get to Baby Yoda in time to save him,
Right.
just because
Right.
Boba Fett told him to drop his jetpack. Like he could have just told him to drop his gun, but that was kind of like a plot point
Right.
contrivance.
Right.
And then the fourth
Yeah.
thing would have been just the Luke Skywalker CGI. Some people were kind of disappointed how that looked, but it didn't bother me at all.
I
So
wasn't disappointed at all with that
so
either.
what was yours?
Mine is a bigger thing. Like those little things, I could, I definitely could nitpick at those. Like you mentioned.
Mhm.
Um, I didn't really care about the CGI. That was fine with me. Even the other little things like you mentioned, I just let them go because I did enjoy it. And
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
this is not a criticism on the season. The season was great, but what I did not like was the Dark Troopers being droids. And I was
Oh,
like,
okay.
that
Yeah.
is a letdown to me. It's like, especially when they're literally using Grogu's blood in this experiment. And the droid, you're going to tell me the droids need blood? It's like
Well, and I don't
completely
think that's what they're
ridiculous.
using his blood for.
Okay,
And I think
okay,
that's
but just wasn't impressed with the Dark Troopers. I mean, they looked kind of cool, but I wasn't impressed with them at all.
I I kind of agree with you to an extent. I think it would have been cooler if they were like some sort of genetic manipulation
Right,
droid fusion thing that they did
right, hmm
using the blood. But I really think that the blood is being used to, because you saw it back in the episode 4 where they go to the cloning research thing. There's these
right.
tubes with these people
Yep,
in it, and I think that they're trying to clone the emperor, and I think that's what Moff Gideon's final goal is to clone the emperor, and I think that's how we get Snoke.
gotcha. No, I
So
mean, you may be right about that, but right now, I'm not impressed with them as droids. The Dark Troopers weren't that impressive to me, even though
well, I mean, the problem
they
with droids has always been that they were easy just cannon fodder for, especially for the
right,
Jedi. They could just.
right,
So I think maybe the thing is that these droids are super powerful, and they weren't worried about Jedi's destroying them because they didn't think that Jedi's were even around
true.
anymore.
There weren't too many Jedi's around. You're right, but
Because you saw what one droid did to
oh,
Mando, and he
yeah.
was
Now
pretty.
that part was impressive, and I really enjoyed that part because what it showed was how tough the armor is, right?
Yeah,
Because when
yeah,
when he's trying to, the Dark Trooper is beating the heck out of Mando, it's really beating the heck out of the ship because
yeah, yeah,
because basically, the armor is impenetrable, and so basically, the forces Mando's head through the wall
yeah.
almost. You know what I mean?
Well,
Eh,
there were some people that were critical of that because they're like, well, how does his neck stay?
Right, right,
like shouldn't he? Isn't he taking a pounding even through the armor? And they're like, well, his armor is actually pressurized because you can tell like when he takes it off, it actually makes the sound,
right, right,
type thing. So that's how his skull doesn't get banged around
right.
inside the helmet. If you want to get really technical about it, I mean, some people want to nitpick to the highest level, but
No, and again, I like that part. That part was neat,
yeah,
but
no,
just
yeah,
overall, it was like, the Dark Troopers. I mean, they were a little bit disappointing. That's all.
a little bit because I think it's because Luke is so powerful that it kind of made them not as ominous. I mean, I think up to that point, you're like, well, how are they going to get out of this? So then I
Right,
think they
right,
are kind
sure.
of cool that way. But then, Luke comes and just mows them down. So it's pretty cool to see that. And just talking about that, the surprises in this last episode were so
Yeah,
awesome to me.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
And
I was
I
like, is
did.
that really Luke? I was like, oh my God, that's Luke. When the X-wing came to the ship, I
Yes,
was like, could that be Luke? Is it somebody else? And then they kept
right,
him shrouded in mystery for the whole time. But then you're like, oh, it's got to be Luke. It's got to be Luke at this point.
definitely. Well, I
Um,
love the crack too. The crack, like, oh, one X-wing, great, we're saved.
yeah, yeah. And
But
then just the emotional impact of that episode too was to show. I mean, I think they've been building on this. There's two themes that have been building throughout the entire season. One I touched on was the fact that at the beginning when Grogu's eating all the, the frog lady's eggs, it's like
right,
he doesn't really make that big a deal about it, even though it's a big thing. Like he could be ending the
right. Oh my
lifeline of
gosh,
this entire race.
species. Yeah, exactly.
Um, but and then like putting him in the cockpit to help like fix the ship and stuff, or not the cockpit, but the
Right.
like
Yeah.
using power tools and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
It shows that he just wasn't like prepared to be a dad at that point. But as it goes on, you see his attachment growing more and more
Right.
to him, and that's a really cool aspect
Yeah.
of it. And at the end, when he gives him up, it's really emotional, and the fact that he does show his face because he realizes
Yeah.
that he's never actually seen his face, and he needs to have that moment where he's having that connection with the child.
Yeah, that was played perfectly too. Is like,
Yeah,
he basically, he had said that I'll see you again, right? And then,
yeah,
Baby Yoda gives him the look like, what do you mean I'll see you again? I've seen this mask, I've seen this helmet on a couple people, by now.
yeah,
Like, I don't know who you are really, and
yeah.
then he realizes that and takes it off, and so that was really really touching. So very,
And
very nice
And
for
then
sure.
the other theme I think of this season was also been his relationship with his order of the Mandalorian.
Right. Hmm.
The fact that he's opening his eyes to the bigger universe, where he had only thought that only the Mandalorians only acted one way, but then he realizes that he's just like a religious sect of it that's very hardcore, and
Right.
he doesn't necessarily have to keep his helmet on the whole time, and it's not just about the helmet, but about opening his eyes to the larger world that he's
Right.
been kind of oblivious to.
Yeah, and
I
he's
think
sort
that's a
of
really cool story too.
No, I think he's finally sort of like he's finally showing sort of a willingness to take part in the rest of the world. Because when we first meet him, he's super self-contained and
Yeah,
uh, perfectly fine with that. And being isolated and completely alone and only dealing with what's in front of him. And now here he is, sort of opening his eyes not only through the fatherhood angle, but through the fact that there could be a cause greater than himself. You know what I mean?
and now he's like put even farther into the forefront of it with the fact that he has the dark
Yeah,
saber,
exactly,
which
exactly.
technically kind of makes him the leader of Mandalore, which he does. That's
Right.
the thing that he doesn't
He
necessarily
doesn't
want.
even want. Yeah, exactly.
Um,
That was a twist, and I know that's not, it's not kind of consistent with how the dark saber was used in the animated series. I don't know. Again,
yeah,
I don't know as much about the animated series, but I know it wasn't used that way, and
yeah.
that was the first time.
Apparently, for those people that might not know the history behind that, but the dark saber has been featured quite a bit in Star Wars Rebels and the Clone Wars, and I've I've watched videos about the history of it and what it means, and apparently it does basically bring leadership to Mandalore, and at one point even Darth Maul wielded it
Right.
and took over, but yeah, Bo-Katan didn't actually receive the dark saber originally in battle. She was actually gifted to it was actually gifted to her.
Right.
But what from what I've heard is really the fact of the matter is that she lost it in battle is not the fact that she got gifted to it originally, but the fact that she lost it in battle means that she is seen as weak and
Oh, okay.
she
Okay.
needs to
Yeah, that
earn
makes
it
sense
back.
then.
She can't just be given to it. It has to be earned for
See
her
that
to
I think
achieve power.
they should have went with that because the fact that you know what I mean, it was okay for her to be gifted it originally, but then the fact that she lost it makes a special sort of
Yeah.
onus on her to win it
But
back.
but if you think about it though, like the random viewer is not going to know that history. They don't even know that she was actually gifted the dark saber originally.
Sure,
So
I agree.
it doesn't have that paradox that somebody who
Right.
knows the history would. So I think maybe trying to maybe that was referenced in one of the scripts and they just had to take it out because there was
Yeah,
so much
yeah.
happening in that episode that they
Could
couldn't
be,
really
could be.
explain it. But yeah, you know I think maybe it'll be explained in season 3. You know,
Right, right. It has to be because that's sort of the elephant in the room right now.
yeah,
So we're running a little bit long, I think.
yes,
So we need to talk about
it is a Star Wars special after all. So it's
true. It's and true. And one thing though, I do think we need to talk about, unless you got something else to talk about the season. We need to talk about the very very end because
I
we
do. Yeah,
alluded
we
to it
do need to
before.
talk about that. But before we do that, I
Okay.
want to just say I want to just ask you, and I'm
Uh
going to
huh.
name mine too. But I want you to name your favorite episode of the season.
Well, my favorite episode is episode 6,
Yeah.
hands down.
Okay.
There were several really good ones, including the finale and including the Ahsoka episode, are right up there too. But just for sure, sort of excitement. For me, it was 6.
Yeah, number 6 for me too, and, I mean, so much happens in that, and, Boba Fett returns, Grogu's taken, the Razor Crest is destroyed, we didn't even talk about that, the fact that
No,
his
yeah,
ship got
exactly. His
destroyed.
ship's gone. Yeah.
I was joking with somebody who right after that episode, aired, he had bought the Lego Razor Crest, and I was like, "Well, it's already assembled just like in the show."
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
Lego pieces, scattered about.
That's funny because yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But
Like
yeah, so kinda
I would have been upset if I had if I had been a parent and bought my kid the Razor Crest, and then before, for Christmas, and then suddenly that episode shows up. Like what?
yeah. Yeah, well,
But
it's funny, like in Fortnite, the game I play Fortnite, and the Mandalorian's in the new season of Fortnite, and he's got the Razor Crest in that too, and that happened like right before that episode. So it's like, okay, well,
that's
it's
funny.
gone now, so I don't know.
Right, right.
And then so let's talk about the big one,
So
the
basically, the
end.
credits roll, right? The credits roll on
Mhm,
an emotional season finale where Mando gives up Baby Yoda to the Jedi who can train him and swears to protect him with his life. And
mhm.
that's Luke Skywalker. In case we didn't really touch on it too much, but yes, it's Luke Skywalker,
Played by
who
Mark Hamill, by the
played by
way,
Mark Hamill.
in
Mhm.
a CGI age regression
Yeah,
role. Yeah,
DG de-aged or whatever.
yeah.
But that harkens back to he must have been the one that heard the call from
Yep.
episode 6. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because Ahsoka tells Mando to, let Grogu, sit on the spot and give this message out, right? And so all the Jedi will know he's there. And so Luke obviously is the one who answers the call. So after that, credits roll, and then we see a familiar sight, Tatooine,
Yeah.
the two sons of Tatooine, and we see another familiar sight, the palace of Jabba the Hutt,
Jabba.
who's
Yep.
dead from Princess Leia
Yep.
in Return of the Jedi, but suddenly there. Remember his interpreter guy is sitting on
Yeah.
the throne,
Bib
right?
Bib Fortuna is his name, yes.
I didn't even know his name, but yeah,
It
I know the guy because I remember him
yeah.
from back then. But he's obviously running the operation, and then someone's
I'll tell
coming
you what I
in.
love about this though, like, before we even get to the
Okay,
what happens is the fact that he's on the throne, and he is definitely bigger than he used to be.
yes,
He
yes,
has,
uh huh,
gained a lot of weight, and I'm
definitely.
wondering if, like, could he even be the same race as Jabba the Hutt? That they just get so fat and big,
Well,
they turn into these big slug-like monsters, like, he gets
I
so
think you could be right. What
yeah,
happens is when you're the boss, you get the most food, and
yeah,
it's
he
it's
just
simple, right? And so
yeah.
you just blow up, right?
I love the fact that they made him like that. I think that was really cool, like, little
Yeah,
detail. Yeah,
that
yeah.
was great. And
Yeah.
then cut to the chase. Somebody invades, and it happens to be Finnick, and eventually Boba Fett. And Boba Fett basically has an interaction with what's his name again? Sorry.
Bib Fortuna.
Yes,
Bib
and he's like,
is
"Boba, it was great. I thought you were dead. It's great to
yeah.
see you." And Boba Fett is not so pleased to see him, and so he basically takes over. So now Boba Fett has taken over Jabba's seat at the syndicate. At the head of the
Mhm,
syndicate,
mhm.
right? And that leads to a title superimposed after
Yep,
that called the Book of Boba Fett.
yep.
And so that is the announcement of the other Disney Plus show that will be happening soon. And it,
And to clarify on that one, when that came up, I was like, "Hmm, does this mean that we are no longer going to be following Mando, Jirin?
Mhm.
Are we no longer be following his adventures? And is season 3 going to be called The Book of Boba Fett?" And there was a lot of confusion around that, like that maybe Mandalorian would turn into like an anthology series where you follow a different Mandalorian,
Right,
over a
right,
number of seasons. But Disney did clarify that this is actually its own spin-off series and not season 3 of Mandalorian. So
right. Definitely. No, and that was good because I agree that if you watched it before people asked those questions, you would be like,
yeah,
huh. So because I mean, it would make sense, to do that. That could be a way to go. But I'm excited. So now Boba Fett has his own series as well, which should be interesting.
That'd be interesting to see that. Like, I'd be interested to see how they go with it because I do like you said, I think him being at the table of its crime syndicate is going to be an interesting take on, because he's not a do good character necessarily, right? I mean, he helped out
No, yeah,
Mando in
definitely.
this case, but
Yeah.
he's got his own agenda, so it's really interesting to see. And that shot at the end was just really cool with him sitting on the throne
Do you know
and
what it
Fennec sitting
reminded me
next to
of?
him.
I don't know if you remember, but it definitely reminded me of basically Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it
the
did. Yep,
the
yep,
iconic
yep.
shot at the end of Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah.
But Fennec is a great right hand man, so to speak, right hand woman,
Yeah.
basically. She's sharpshooter and she kicks butt. Uh, Ming Na
I love
Wen, of
Ming-Na
course.
Wen, man. She's
Yeah,
so good. She's good in
yeah,
everything she's in.
definitely. And
And
so that's
she's
gonna
57 years old, by the way.
what?
She's 57 years old.
There's no way.
She is in great shape for a 57-year-old woman. She's so yeah.
Wow. Okay. Good. Good. But yeah, I mean, that's really cool. But and then Tamora Morrison is really good as well. So
Yeah, he
uh,
surprised me.
I'm anxious to see how Boba Fett goes from here. But yeah, I mean, so that's the big surprise announcement that they didn't do on Investor Day, but they did do in the season finale. So
Yeah, and I think they held it because they didn't want people knowing what happened to Boba Fett because there was rumors that he was gonna die in the season finale and stuff like that, so they didn't wanna
right,
spoil anything. So I think that's why they held on to it because the Investor Day was actually, like, I think the week before.
right, right.
So
What the other thing I like about the Boba Fett character, not only just him coming back, was that once he got into the action, he was pretty good because there was a
yeah.
there was a lot of skills he had to use, to help them sort of um, do what they wanted to do, in
Well, they
terms
kind
of
of redeemed the character, right? If you really, I mean, because everybody thought, when he came out, he was so cool and everybody loved Boba Fett. And
yeah,
then to have him go out the way he did in Jedi,
ugh,
like
yeah,
kind of as a comedic
yeah,
joke type thing, it was kind of a cheesy way to get rid of that character. And I think they kind of redeemed him in this series.
definitely, definitely. I agree. I
I
agree.
can't
So
wait to see both that and season 3 of Mando and all the upcoming stuff. We did talk about a lot of things that came out, and we did mention, I think, before we came onto the podcast about like maybe they're stretching themselves a little too thin, but I
yeah,
don't know. I think they've done such a good job with Mandalorian, and I think if John Favreau and Dave Filoni are in charge, I'm willing to go wherever they take us.
yeah. I mean, they just have to recruit people with enough talent like they have
Yeah. I mean,
to
if they do the same thing in these
yeah,
series and have these big name actors and great performers in it and great directors behind it,
right. Yeah, we
I
didn't even
don't
name all the directors. Peyton Reed from
for
the
Ant Man
Ant-Man
and more.
series. Carl Weathers actually directed one of the episodes.
Yeah, yeah,
Also Bryce Dallas Howard even, and
yeah. She came back from. She did episode from the first season too.
and then
Yeah,
Rick Famuyiwa came back again.
yeah. Who
Um,
also plays one of the rebel pilots. So we'll see if he ends up in the Rangers of the New Republic too.
yeah, that'd be cool. But
So
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
obviously, like I said, I do hope that they are able to keep the level of talent up enough that all of these end up being as good as Mandalorian. But
yeah.
we shall see.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be some, maybe stuff that's not as good, and maybe there's something will surprise us and be even better. So, you know, um, I mean, a Marvel proved that that
True.
you can keep doing good stuff. Like every time Marvel announced a new movie, we were like, I don't know, is this the one where they're gonna,
Right. Right.
fall on their face? And they've all been a high level, no matter where you rank them, they're still enjoyable movies. And speaking
Definitely.
of which, Disney Investor Day, if you haven't checked it out, they announced like 10 new Marvel titles too on Disney Plus and movies and stuff like that. So
Right. Yeah. Not just not
there's a
just the
lot
Star
going.
Wars. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Disney was like that when they announced all this stuff, it was just like, oh my God, there's so much going on. It's an investor day, so I think they made their investors pretty happy with all the
I'm
stuff
sure
that they
they did.
announced.
Sure they did. All the investors probably doubled down
Yeah. Well,
on
not to
the.
mention Pixar stuff that they're doing
Oh,
and,
yeah,
the traditional stuff. It's just like, geez, Disney's
exactly.
gonna own everything soon. But,
No, I think so too. But but the good news is this is all happening. After a year of such sort of like low
yeah.
profile. I mean, this whole year has been pretty like low profile in terms of movies. It just has been. I mean, you can't really. There's been
Yeah.
no year like this in terms of movie stuff. So it's great to hear all this is still coming. And all this content is still going to come out. So that's really great.
Yeah, I mean, if it's one thing that, this time is given us, I think, is that creators have gotten really creative in how they do stuff, and, it's given us more time to think about, other options out there than just, I think, they say, when stuff like this pandemic happens, necessity is the mother of invention, is what they say.
Right.
And I
Right.
think that's proven itself. It's going to be a great creative after this. There's going to be a great creative boom. There's already a great technological boom going on with all the advancements in technology. I mean, you can even imagine like being able to do this podcast over the
No,
internet, like just a couple of years
exactly.
ago. And, all the people doing Zoom and digital learning and all that stuff. And then the vaccine development alone, not
Right.
only for COVID, but for, I mean, the mRNA technology can be used in other things. I mean, this could be, a good thing for other diseases as well. So
Yeah, I hope so.
while
Yeah, exactly.
while 2020 has sucked,
Yeah, big
I
time.
think it I think it really pushed, and even me personally, I think I feel like it pushed me to do more things and do other things and really change focus. So I think there's always a silver lining in things. So I think
No, I definitely
2020,
think so.
like you
Yeah.
said, I think it's just a good kickoff for other things in the future.
No, no, and that brings us sort of to the end of this. But yeah, I agree that it certainly pushed us to sort of figure out how we can still be creative if possible. And I'm really proud of the fact that we were able to keep this podcast weekly. Because obviously we decided to do it weekly well before
Yeah.
the pandemic happened. But the mother of invention, necessity came on, and we were able to keep it going. And I think we did some fantastic episodes this year. I think we had some great guests, and we had some good episodes. And obviously, I love doing it every week with you. So thanks for uh, for doing all this
Yeah.
and
Thank you.
keeping up the faith. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I have a good time doing it, and I hope people enjoy it. And I mean, I guess on that note, I think we just want to let people know that we are going to be taking a bit of a break. We'll be back in 2021 with new episodes. We're not going to be gone long. We're going to
No.
just take at least 1 week off. So,
Yep.
but we'll see you back in 2021. And Martin, do you have anything else that you want to say before we wrap up our last episode of 2020?
Well, I want to say just happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year to everybody. And I've said it many times, but just keep your heads up.
Yep. Will do. And forgot to mention Eureka Failure. Thank you guys again for providing the music as you do every week. We really appreciate it. And we do encourage you to check out their stuff online.
Absolutely.
Do a search for Eureka Failure or go to eurekafailure.bandcamp.com. And as Martin said, I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we'll see you back again in 2021. And please share this with your friends, especially if you like Star Wars. And we'd like to get any of your feedback on it. But that's about it. Say goodbye to 2020.